I'm Rob Menzies and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to do a short video introducing, unboxing and giving you a quick demo of the TC Electronics Thunderstorm Flanger. So come with me as we come along, open the box, see what it looks like, get some first impressions and then listen to some sounds of what it can actually do for your guitar playing. Okay, so let's crack on with the unboxing. As you can see, this is the Thunderstorm Flanger. This is basically, as it says, a vintage style flanger pedal with analog bucket bridge circuits, whatever a bucket bridge circuit is. So anyway, let's get on with unboxing this thing. I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm sorry, but I've opened it already. So I have had a look at this thing and a bit of a play already. So really everything that's in here is as it was, with the exception of one thing, and that was that this was completely shrink wrapped in plastic, and it was properly sealed in plastic, so I've taken it out of the plastic. So sorry for that, but I wanted to have a play first. You do have a nice little bit here that protects the bypass pedal, so let's just quickly open this up. First thing you really notice about this pedal straight away is when you look at this one, it is quite a simple pedal, but it is extremely well made. This is a chunky pedal, decent chunky metal. It clearly is two pieces of metal going all the way around, and yeah, this is decent chunky. This thing is not falling apart. What do we have with the pedal? We basically have a rate, we have a depth, we have a feedback, and we have a manual, as well as the button to kick us off. And then from a plug-in point of view, very simply, we have an input, an output, and a power supply. So it keeps that one nice and decent. Now, I haven't actually tried, I wouldn't normally use it, but I haven't tried opening this up to see if you can use a 9-volt battery. I would assume that you can, but being completely honest, I'm going to plug this into a power supply, so don't actually need to do a lot more. But pedal, looking really decent, very chunky, we like that. Other than that, inside the box, not a lot. So what would you expect? You've got the usual pamphlets that tell you the controls and tell you what it's all about in 50,000 different languages. And oh, look at that, it tells you that you can actually use a battery and do the battery placement, so it tells you how you can do that. So there you go, we answered that one for you. Okay, so looking at the actual pedal itself, the bit that I found that is really interesting is when we get into the flange effect, the rate and the depth kind of speak for themselves. So rate is basically, well, let's start with the depth. The depth, if you imagine a waveform, so imagine yourself on the sea, from a waveform point of view, this is how deep the wave will actually be. From a rate, it's how quick the wave will be. When we then come back to feedback, it's how many times you're actually going to hear that, so how many times is it going to repeat over. And then with manual, it's basically to do with how much we're actually going to hear it brought into the sound of the guitar. Now the bit that's really interesting, and you can see here I've had a play with these settings and I've actually got my favourite settings already, but I'll talk you through that in a minute. The bit that's really interesting is all of these, when you're at the upright position, if you want to turn it down, you go anti-clockwise. If you want to turn it up, you go clockwise. With the exception of manual. Manual's actually the other way round. So actually, if you want the sound to be less intrusive, you go clockwise. If you want it to be more intrusive, you go anti-clockwise. So we're going to move on now, plug this in and take you through some different settings, so you basically get a view on exactly what this sounds like and how changing the different knobs is going to give you a different sound. Okay, so we are now going to have a crack at going through and showing you some of the settings. So I've got this one set up, just to let you know, I've got my guitar coming out and going into the Black Country Customs Monolith distortion pedal. Tried to put that one out of the way a bit, we're going to leave the settings alone on that one. We've then got it coming into our Thunderstorm Flanger. That's coming through and coming into my Irig, which is then going through into Amplitude. I always say that wrong, Amplitube 4, let's get that one right, so that I can show you some of the sounds. Okay, so I've actually got this one on my favourite setting at the moment. Let's start off with turning this one on, and well, in actual fact, let's give you a clean tone first so you know what a clean tone looks like. Okay, so that's on a humbucker pickup from my Ibanez guitar, and that is on the bridge pickup. So I'm going to continue to use the same setting, same pickup throughout this video. Let's turn this one on now so that we have the flanger ready up and going, and let's give you a bit of a clean sound so you can see how that changes the sound. Okay, so that gives you an idea of where it is at. What we're now going to do before we head over to the distortion piece is just kind of run through and show you how the different knobs make a different setting. So we can kind of see how the different things can change the sound. I've got it on the way that I like it, but you may prefer it a slightly different way. So let's start off with the rate. I'm going to kind of stick to a pretty simple chord and then kind of pick through that chord, and then we'll have a play and see how that changes things. Now for me, actually, the really high rate does not work for me. I actually prefer this at quite a low rate. I think this gives it a lot more of a melodic tune, and I think that works really well. Hopefully you do too. Now let's have a bit of a play with the depth and do the same thing and see how that makes a difference. So again, I'm going to set that one back to my preference on the setting. Time now to do the same thing with the feedback. So as you can see, this feedback doesn't make quite as much difference on this one, but again, I prefer it at that same kind of 10 o'clock position. I think that's really good. Now let's kind of carry on and go with the manual position. Now this one's actually opposite, so what you'll see here is the manual position is how much it brings in the kind of sound, and again, the more that we keep this to the right hand side in a clockwise position, you tend to find that's where you will have less of the sound. The more we crank it over anti-clockwise, you should see that coming in more detail. So let's show you that. Now for those of you that really like to get this really modulating, let's crank this up and show you what this would sound like. So let's go for everything on 75% and show you how that one sounds. And go on just for a giggle 100%. Now for me that gets really silly. As I said, I do really like that melodic sound. I think flangers have got a fantastic sound to them, but for me the advantage of a flanger is actually having something that basically kind of comes in and you don't really notice, or it's something that is quite in the background to give you that melodic vibe. I think it's time now to, oh sorry about that, I think it is time now for us to turn on the distortion. I'm now going to try and change the riff a little bit, and again we're going to give you a bit of a feel on how this adds to the tone. Okay, let's do the same thing and we'll start bringing some of the knobs up. Let's put everything to 12 o'clock and then you can see how that makes a difference. Okay, so again, starting to dial in a little bit of a better tone. Personally, I prefer the depth down, the rate down. Let's try that with those two down, but let's leave the manual and the feedback up at the 12 o'clock position. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take the manual down a little bit, but I'm actually going to bring everything else at the 12 o'clock. Let's bring the feedback down to 25. So that gives you a bit of an idea what this pedal is like. As you can see, there's a lot of changes that you're able to make. Personally, for me, as I said, I do really like it. Adding in around the 10 o'clock position for both the feedback, the depth and the rate, and then leaving the manual, if you like, exactly the same position, but because it's opposite, having it there. I think it gives you a really nice sound to it. I think not only do you get the modulation and the flange, but at the same time I think it also gives you a little bit of a wah effect as you bend the notes and play through the notes. See what you think. So I hope you enjoyed this review of this flanger pedal. As I said at the beginning, quite a quick review. A few other things to go look out for. You would have seen some pop-ups up in the corner throughout this video. I would highly recommend that you go and check out the reviews that I've done, not only on Amplitube as a piece of software for recording guitar effects when you are at home, as we all are at the moment in the 2021 lockdown, but as well as that, I would also suggest going and having a look at my review that I did on the Monolith distortion pedal. Again, not only will there be links up at the top, but what I'll also do is make sure there are links down below so you can click on those and go straight to the videos, as well as tag in a few things on the end screen when I finish chatting in just a second. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please remember to not only like the video but also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this in the future. Thanks again for watching and see you again soon.